God's chosen ones. You're ready. God's message tonight will change everything. Wisdom, motivation. Chosen one. Stop. Right there. Don't scroll past this moment. Do you feel that? That unexplainable tug deep in your chest? That stirring you can't name but can't ignore? That's not your imagination. That's eternity calling your name. Listen to me carefully. You didn't stumble onto this message by accident. You weren't randomly scrolling when this appeared on your screen. This moment right here, right now, was scheduled in heaven before your grandchildren drew their first breath, before your heart was shattered by betrayal, before you whispered those midnight prayers thinking no one was listening. God has been orchestrating this divine appointment since before time began. I need you to understand something that will shake you to your core. Every closed door in your life has been leading you to this exact moment. Every rejection that made you question your worth. Every dream that seemed to die in your hands. Every night you cried yourself to sleep, wondering if you'd missed your call in it, was all positioning you for tonight. You see, most people think they're watching a video, but you're not. You're stepping into a burning bush moment in the desert of your distraction. This message is your flame, and just like Moses, you'll never be the same after this encounter. Heaven is about to download something into your spirit that will rewrite the next chapter of your life. But here's what terrifies the enemy. You're finally ready to receive it. If something in your chest is stirring right now, if your spirit is trembling with recognition, type 777 in the comments. That's not just a number. It's a spiritual agreement. It's you telling heaven, I'm here. I'm listening. I'm ready. Before we go deeper, I want to thank every single soul who has supported this ministry through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're planting seeds in sacred soil, helping spread divine light to others who feel forgotten in their calling. Whether you choose to give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your heart, your time, your willingness to believe again, it all matters to the kingdom. Now hear this prophetic word. Tonight, everything changes. The version of you that clicked on this message will not be the version that walks away from it. God is about to reveal why you felt so different, why the pain has been so intense, why the waiting has been so long. You're not broken, you're being broken open. And what's about to pour out will astonish you. Stay with me, chosen one. Your metamorphosis begins now. Why do you wake up at 3 a.m. with that ache in your chest? Why does the silence in your home feel so deafening? Why do you stare at old photographs and wonder if your best days are behind you? Listen to me, precious soul. That restlessness you feel isn't depression, it's anticipation. That longing isn't emptiness, it's preparation. And that voice whispering, there's got to be more than this. That's not your imagination. That's the Holy Spirit preparing you for your greatest chapter yet. You see, somewhere along the way, the world convinced you that 65 is retirement from purpose, that 70 is settling into silence, that 75 means your impact is over. But heaven operates on a completely different timeline than this broken world. Let me paint you a picture of what many of you are living through right now. The house that once echoed with children's laughter now echoes with memories. The spouse who shared your dreams for 40 years now rests in glory, leaving you wondering what you're supposed to do with all this love that has nowhere to go. Your body, once strong and reliable, now betrays you with aches you never knew existed. The doctor's appointments pile up like autumn leaves. The prescription bottles multiply on your nightstand like plastic soldiers guarding against time itself. And late at night, when the world grows quiet and the television can't drown out your thoughts anymore, you whisper questions into the darkness. God, am I forgotten? Did I miss my purpose? Are my best days really behind me? Dear one, what if I told you that everything you just described isn't the end of your story, it's the setup for your greatest act? Jeremiah 1-5 declares something that will shatter every lie you've believed about your season of life. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Did you catch that? Before you were knit in your mother's womb, God didn't just know you, He appointed you, not past tense, present tense. You are still appointed. You are still chosen. You are still assigned. That restlessness you feel, that's divine discontent. That longing for more, that's your spirit recognizing that your assignment isn't complete. Those sleepless nights when you toss and turn, wrestling with thoughts you can't quite name, that's God preparing your heart for revelation. You think your wrinkles disqualify you, but God sees wisdom lines. You think your slower pace disqualifies you, but God sees deeper contemplation. You think your past mistakes disqualify you, but God sees a testimony waiting to be unleashed. Let me tell you about Margaret, 74 years old, a widow for 3 years. Her children lived 1,200 miles away. Her arthritis made every movement a prayer for mercy. She felt invisible, forgotten, like her life was just marking time until heaven called her home. She'd given up on purpose and settled into what she called graceful decline. But God had other plans. Margaret ended up in a nursing home, not by choice, but by necessity. She was angry, bitter, convinced that God had abandoned her to die among strangers. But within 6 months, something extraordinary happened. Margaret began noticing the other residents, really seeing them. The man in room 204 who never had visitors. The woman in the wheelchair who cried every night. The angry veteran who cursed at everyone because pain was the only language he knew anymore. Margaret began to pray for them. Then she began to talk to them. Then she began to share the love of Jesus with a tenderness that only comes from having walked through your own valley of shadows. One by one, hearts began to open. Tears began to flow. Prayers began to rise. By the time Margaret went home to glory at age 78, she had led 42 souls to Christ in that nursing home. 42 eternal destinations changed because one woman refused to believe her purpose expired with her youth. The nursing home chaplain spoke at her funeral and said something that should echo in your spirit right now. Margaret didn't retire from ministry. She graduated into it. Your age doesn't disqualify you. It qualifies you. Because you've endured, you've survived, you've learned, you've been broken and put back together by the Master's hands. And now you carry something the young cannot offer: authentic wisdom forged in the fires of real living. But what if the waiting wasn't wasted? What if the silence was training ground for glory? What if every closed door, every disappointment, every loss was God clearing the stage for your encore performance? Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver Israel. Abraham was 75 when God promised him nations. Sarah was 90 when she bore the child of promise. Anna was 84 when she became the first evangelist of the Messiah. Notice a pattern? God's greatest assignments often come with gray hair attached. You've been waiting for this without even knowing it. Every prayer you've prayed, every tear you've cried, every night you've wondered if your life still matters, it's all been preparation for what God is about to reveal. That stirring in your spirit isn't nostalgia, it's anticipation. God isn't finished with you, He's just getting started. But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you answer the call, or will you let fear convince you it's too late? Because what I'm about to show you next will prove that your best days aren't behind you, they're standing right in front of you, waiting for your yes. You know what haunts me about most of God's chosen ones? They spend decades apologizing for being different, decades shrinking back because their sensitivity was called weakness, decades dimming their light because others couldn't handle the brightness. But tonight, that ends. Listen to me, chosen one. That feeling you've carried your entire life, that sense of being an outsider even in your own family, it wasn't a curse. It was a calling card from heaven. Remember when you were 7 years old and you knew your grandmother was sick before anyone told you? Remember how you could feel the tension in a room the moment you walked in? How you had dreams that came true? How you sensed things about people that made others uncomfortable? They called you too sensitive. They said you were reading too much into things. They made you feel like something was wrong with you for seeing what others missed. But what if I told you that every moment of feeling different was God marking you as His own? Think about this. Why do you think you've always been drawn to broken people? Why do strangers tell you their deepest secrets in grocery store lines? Why do children and animals gravitate toward you without explanation? It's because you carry something they desperately need, the frequency of heaven. The Bible tells us in Romans 8:19, creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. Did you catch that? Creation is waiting. The earth itself is holding its breath, waiting for people like you to stop hiding and start shining. You see, you were never meant to fit into this world system. You were designed to disrupt it, to bring light where there's darkness, to speak hope where there's despair, to heal what's been broken. But here's what will shock you to your core. You're not a late bloomer. You're a slow-burning star, and stars don't shine until it's darkest. Every rejection you faced wasn't God's punishment. It was His protection. Every door that slammed shut wasn't Him saying "Noit," was Him saying "Not yet." Every season of isolation wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. God has been hiding you in His shadow, refining you in the furnace of experience, because what He's about to release through you is so powerful that the enemy has been trying to stop you since the day you were born. You think it's coincidence that you've survived what should have destroyed you? You think it's luck that you're still standing when others fell? You think it's random that despite every attempt to break you, something inside you refuses to die? Wake up, chosen one. You're bulletproof because you're divinely protected. That depression that nearly took you out, it was the enemy's desperate attempt to silence you before your voice could shake nations. That betrayal that shattered your trust, it was removing people who weren't qualified to walk with you into your destiny. That financial struggle that humbled you, it was teaching you to depend on God, not man. Every single battle you fought has been boot camp for the war you're about to win. And now right now God is saying, enough hiding, enough apologizing, enough pretending to be normal when you were created to be extraordinary. The same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. The same power that parted the Red Sea flows through your prayers. The same authority that spoke the universe into existence rests in your voice when you decree His word. But here's the urgency you need to understand. This isn't a dress rehearsal. This isn't practice. This is your moment. The world is in chaos. Families are falling apart. Hope is dying in the streets. Despair is spreading like wildfire. And God is looking for His chosen ones, the sensitive ones, the different ones, the ones who never quite fit into rise up and be the light. You see, your difference wasn't a mistake. It was a mission. Your sensitivity wasn't a flaw. It was a gift. Your ability to feel deeply, to see beyond the surface, to carry others' pain, that's exactly what this broken world needs. The question is, will you keep hiding behind the lie that you're too much, too different, too broken? Or will you finally accept that you're exactly what God ordered for this exact moment in history? Type, "I receive it," if your spirit knows this is your hour. Say it out loud. Let heaven hear your agreement. Because here's what I know about you that maybe you've forgotten. You weren't born to be a spectator. You weren't created to blend into the background. You weren't designed to play it safe while the world burns around you. You were born to be a history maker, a chain breaker, a freedom fighter in the army of the living God. And if you can feel that fire starting to burn in your chest again, if something inside you is waking up from a long sleep, then you're ready for what comes next. Because God isn't just calling you different anymore. He's calling you ready. And when the chosen ones are ready, everything changes. Chosen one, I need you to sit down for this revelation, because what I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've believed about your suffering. You've wondered your entire life, haven't you? Why me? Why has everything been so hard? Why did I lose my parents so young? Why did my marriage crumble when I prayed the hardest? Why did sickness ravage my body when I was serving God faithfully? Why did my own children turn their backs on me after I sacrificed everything for them? Listen to me carefully. You weren't cursed. You were targeted. The reason hell fought you so hard is because heaven marked you so early. Before you took your first breath, before your mother even knew she was carrying you, God branded you with divine purpose. And the enemy saw that mark. He's been trying to kill what God planted in you since day one. Think about it. Look back at your childhood. Was it peaceful? Was it safe? Or were you dealing with trauma that children should never face? Abuse that stole your innocence? poverty that made you question if you mattered, abandonment that taught you not to trust, death that visited your family too often, too early. You thought you were unlucky, but hell knew better. Hell knew you carried something dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Joseph's brothers threw him in a pit when he was just 17 years old. Why? Because they saw the favor of God on his life, and it threatened them. Genesis 37:4 tells us, his brothers hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. That wasn't sibling rivalry. That was spiritual warfare. The enemy used their jealousy to try to destroy Joseph's destiny before it could unfold. But here's what hell didn't count on. Every attack only strengthened what God was building. Moses spent 40 years in exile in the wilderness, thinking he'd failed God's calling. But Exodus 3:7 reveals the truth. The Lord said, "I have indeed seen the misery of my people." God wasn't ignoring Moses during those desert years. He was preparing him to deliver an entire nation. David hid in caves, running for his life from King Saul. Psalm 142:4 captures his desperation. "Look and see, there is no one at my right hand. No one is concerned for me." He felt abandoned, forgotten. But 1 Samuel 16:13 already declared his destiny. From that day on, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. You see the pattern? The greater the calling, the greater the warfare. Your chronic pain wasn't random. Your financial struggles weren't coincidence. That betrayal from your closest friend wasn't bad luck. Hell was trying to break you before you discovered who you really are. But you're still here. You're still breathing. You're still believing. And that terrifies the enemy because he knows his time is running out. Every sleepless night you spent crying out to God, wondering if he was listening. Revelation 5-8 gives you the answer. Each one had a harp and they were holding golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of God's people. Your prayers weren't ignored. They were collected, stored, treasured. Every tear, every whispered plea, every desperate cry for help was caught in heaven's golden bowls. God was never absent during your darkest hours. He was preparing your testimony. Think about the woman with the issue of blood in Mark 5. 12 years of suffering, 12 years of being called unclean, 12 years of doctors taking her money and making her worse. But verse 34 reveals God's plan. Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. Her pain had a purpose. Her suffering had a deadline. And so does yours. The divorce that destroyed your family, God is using it to give you a heart for the broken. The addiction that nearly killed you, it's becoming your platform to save others. The depression that swallowed you whole, it's creating empathy in you that will pull people from their own dark pits. Every no from man was a setup for God's now. Every door that slammed in your face was protecting you from settling for less than God's best. Every person who walked away was making room for divine connections. Every loss was preparing you for greater gain. You weren't delayed. You were preserved. The enemy thought he was destroying you, but God was developing you. Hell thought it was burying you, but heaven was planting you. What looked like rejection was actually divine protection. What felt like abandonment was actually strategic positioning. Right now, as you hear these words, something is shifting in the spiritual realm. The attacks are losing their power because you're finally understanding their purpose. The pain is being transformed from poison into medicine. The scars are becoming your credentials. You're not a victim anymore. You're a victor who's been battle-tested and hell-approved. You've been through the fire and come out refined like gold. You've walked through the valley of death and emerged fearless. The enemy wasted decades trying to stop you, but all he did was strengthen you for the assignment that's coming. All those years of attack were actually years of preparation. Because chosen one, God is about to release you into the very destiny hell tried so hard to destroy. And when you step into that calling, carrying the authority that only comes from surviving spiritual warfare, the kingdom of darkness will tremble. But first, you need to understand exactly what God has been preparing you for all these years. Chosen one, I'm about to reveal something that will shatter everything you thought you knew about your journey. Are you ready for this truth? Because once you hear it, There's no going back to the comfortable lie that your pain was random. Your entire life has been a divine blueprint. Every single trauma, every betrayal that left you gasping for air, every door that slammed shut in your face, every tear that fell in the darkness when you thought no one was watching. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't even your fault. It was architecture. Think about this for a moment. When an architect designs a skyscraper, does he start with the penthouse number? He begins 200 feet underground, digging deep into bedrock, laying a foundation strong enough to support what's coming. The deeper the foundation, the higher the building can rise. Your trauma? That was God digging deep. Your tears, they were cementing your foundation. Every time you thought you were being buried, heaven was actually laying the groundwork for your elevation. But here's what will shock you to your core. You weren't the only one affected by this blueprint. Your bloodline has been waiting for this moment for generations. Your great-grandmother's prayers that seemed unanswered, they were being stored up. Your grandfather's dreams that died in the Depression, they were being transferred to you. Every ancestor who carried unfulfilled promise in their DNA was actually planting seeds for this exact season in your life. You think this is about you? Listen carefully. This is about lineage. Psalm 139:16 declares something that should make your spirit tremble. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be, before your first breath, before your first heartbreak, before your first doubt. God was already writing the story of your comeback. But let me ask you something that's going to cut straight to your soul. What if everything you've been through wasn't preparing you to be blessed, but to become a blessing? What if your healing isn't the destination, but the qualification? What if your breakthrough isn't the end goal, but the launching pad? Because here's the devastating truth most people never discover. You're not just carrying your own dreams. You're carrying the deferred dreams of your entire family tree. Think about the roots of an oak tree. You see one tree, but underground, those roots stretch 100 feet in every direction, connecting to other trees, sharing nutrients, communicating danger, supporting the entire forest. That's your spiritual DNA. Every ancestor who died with songs unsung, dreams unfulfilled, words unspoken, their anointing didn't die with them. It was transferred down the line, accumulating interest, waiting for the right vessel. You are that vessel. This is why the warfare has been so intense in your life. This is why you felt different since childhood. This is why ordinary struggles nearly destroyed you while other people seemed to float through life untouched. The enemy knew something about your bloodline that you're just now discovering. He's been trying to break you before you could break the curse. But here's what terrifies him. You didn't break. After everything, the addiction, the divorce, the bankruptcy, the diagnosis, the loss that nearly killed you, you're still here. You're still breathing. You're still believing. And that's not human resilience. That's generational anointing. Let me paint you a picture that will change how you see your story forever. Imagine standing in front of a massive family tree, not just names and dates, but faces. Hundreds of them, stretching back centuries. Your great-great-grandmother who prayed for a descendant to break the cycle of poverty. Your grandfather who dreamed of education but never got past third grade. Your aunt who had the gift of prophecy but was told women shouldn't speak in church. Now imagine them all turning to look at you, not with judgment, but with anticipation, because they can see what you can't see yet. They can see that everything they planted in prayer, everything they sacrificed, everything they endured was creating the spiritual momentum that would culminate in you. You're not just living your life, you're living their prayers answered. But here's the part that should make you weep with holy reverence. This generational breakthrough doesn't stop with you. The healing you're about to walk into, the abundance that's about to flow, the authority that's about to be released through your life, it's going to cascade down to your children's children's children. One decision, one moment of divine alignment, one yes spoken in faith, and you don't just change your life. You rewrite the entire trajectory of your bloodline. Think about Ruth in the Bible, a widow, a foreigner, apparently insignificant. But her one decision to follow Naomi, Her one yes to an uncertain future placed her in the lineage of King David. More than that, it placed her in the lineage of Jesus Christ himself. One woman's faithfulness became the foundation for the Messiah's earthly family tree. What if your yes tonight carries that same generational weight? What if the reason you've survived everything you've survived is because heaven needed you alive for this exact moment? What if your children's children are waiting on the other side of your obedience? What if the breakthrough you're about to step into was never just about you, but about becoming the answer to prayers that were prayed before you were born? I need you to feel the weight of this moment. Your ancestors are watching, your descendants are waiting, and heaven is holding its breath. The question that will haunt you forever if you don't answer it tonight is this: if you knew your yes right now could set off a chain of deliverance that would impact generations you'll never meet, would you still hold back? Because that's exactly what's at stake. This isn't about getting a better life. This is about becoming the generational game changer your bloodline has been praying for. The blueprint is revealed. The moment has arrived. The only question left is, what will you do with this revelation? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. What's happening right now isn't inspiration. This isn't another feel-good message to help you sleep better tonight. This is your commissioning, your divine activation, and the enemy is terrified because he knows what you're about to step into. For decades, you've been settling for encouragement when God has been preparing you for empowerment. You've been asking for comfort when heaven has been forging you for conquest. But tonight changes everything. Let me ask you something that's going to shake you. How many years have you been waiting for someone else to validate what God already whispered to your spirit? How long have you been seeking human approval for a divine assignment that was sealed before the foundation of the world? You see, there's a reason why your life has felt like one continuous preparation, a reason why the pain carved you deeper than others, a reason why you survived what should have destroyed you. You weren't being punished, you were being positioned. In Isaiah 6-8, when God asked, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" Isaiah didn't hesitate. He didn't ask for a business plan. He didn't demand a guarantee. He simply said, "Here I am, Lord. Send me." But here's what most people miss about that moment. Isaiah had just experienced a vision so intense it left him undone. He saw his own unworthiness, felt the burning coal touch his lips, experienced divine cleansing. He was transformed before he was commissioned. Sound familiar? Every heartbreak you endured was a burning coal purifying your purpose. Every rejection was heaven removing what didn't belong in your story. Every delay was God timing your emergence with precision that only eternity could orchestrate. You're not the leftover generation. You're the launching pad generation. Those prayers you whispered in 1983, desperate, broken, honest prayers, they're unlocking doors in 2025. That pain you carried through the 90s, it's becoming power in this decade. Every tear you cried when no one was watching has been collected in heaven's bottle, and now they're being poured out as anointing oil over your assignment. But here's where most people stumble. They wait for the feeling to match the calling. They wait until fear disappears before they step forward. They wait until they feel qualified before they accept the commission. Moses felt unqualified. "I am slow of speech," he argued. But God wasn't looking for eloquence. He was looking for obedience. Gideon felt too small. "I am the least in my family," he protested. But God wasn't measuring his strength. He was measuring his surrender. What if I told you that your feelings of inadequacy are actually evidence of your calling? What if every moment you felt not enough was God preparing you to depend entirely on his strength? What if your weakness has been your greatest qualification all along? Right now, as you're listening to these words, something is shifting in the spiritual realm. Can you feel it? That trembling in your chest isn't anxiety, it's activation. That stirring in your spirit isn't restlessness, it's recognition. Your DNA is remembering its divine design. You were never meant to be a spectator in God's story. You were designed to be a protagonist. But here's the truth that will either liberate you or terrify you. Your season of preparation is over. Your season of activation has begun. And it's not gradual, It's not a slow transition. It's sudden. It's immediate. It's now. Think about it. When God called Abraham, he didn't give him a 5-year plan. He said, "Go." When he called Moses, he didn't provide leadership training. He said, "Go." When Jesus called the disciples, they didn't attend seminary first. They dropped their nets and followed. Why are you still holding on to nets that God told you to drop decades ago? Why are you still rehearsing conversations with people who walked away? Why are you still living in the shadow of mistakes that Jesus already covered with his blood? Here's what terrifies hell about this moment. You're finally ready to believe what heaven has already written. You're finally ready to step into the authority that was purchased for you at Calvary. You're finally ready to stop apologizing for the fire in your spirit and start using it to ignite revival. But I need you to understand something. This activation comes with a cost. When you say yes to your divine commission, comfort becomes secondary. When you step into your calling, popularity becomes irrelevant. When you embrace your assignment, the approval of man becomes powerless. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to be misunderstood by people who used to understand you? Are you ready to walk into rooms where your presence shifts atmospheres? Are you ready to speak words that heal some and convict others? Because that's what happens when the chosen ones are activated. You become a living disruption to the status quo. You become a walking revival. You become a breathing breakthrough for everyone desperate enough to believe again. The question isn't whether you're qualified. The question is whether you're willing. Will you finally believe what heaven has already written about your life? Will you step into the purpose God preserved you for? Will you stop waiting for permission and start walking in power? Right now, I want you to pray this with me. Don't just listen. Participate. Let these words become your covenant with heaven. Lord, I step into the purpose you preserved me for. I receive the commission you've been preparing me for. I surrender my timeline to your timing, my plans to your purpose, my fears to your faithfulness. Here I am, Lord. Send me. If you prayed that prayer, if something just shifted in your spirit, you've crossed a threshold. You're not the same person who started watching this message. You've been activated. You've been commissioned. And heaven is celebrating because another chosen one just said yes. But this is only the beginning. What happens next will determine whether this activation becomes transformation or just another emotional moment that fades by morning. Listen carefully, beloved. What you decide in the next few minutes isn't just about you. It's about your children's children who haven't been born yet. It's about the teenager in your family who's losing faith. It's about the broken soul who will meet you 5 years from now and wonder how you carry such unshakable peace. Your obedience tonight becomes their inheritance. Let me tell you about Harriet Tubman. She was nobody special by the world's standards, a beaten-down slave woman with a head injury that caused seizures. But when God whispered, "Lead my people to freedom," she didn't hesitate. She didn't say, "I'm not qualified. I'm not strong enough. I'm just one person." She said yes, and that yes didn't just free 70 souls from bondage. It lit a torch that burned through generations. Today, millions of children know they can overcome because one broken woman chose to believe God's whisper over her circumstances. But here's what haunts me, chosen one. What if she had said no? What if she had let fear win? How many would have died in chains? How many dreams would have been buried in cotton fields? Your breakthrough isn't just for you. It's a bridge for the next generation. Think about Corrie ten Boom, middle-aged spinster living quietly above her father's watch shop in Holland. Nobody would have picked her to be a hero. But when Nazi boots stomped through her neighborhood, dragging Jewish families to their deaths, she didn't close her curtains and mind her own business. She opened her home. She hid the hunted. She risked everything. And when they threw her into a concentration camp, when they murdered her sister, when hell itself tried to break her spirit, she still chose forgiveness. She chose to believe God was bigger than her pain. That choice didn't just save her soul. It saved thousands who heard her story later. It saved the Nazi guard who tortured her when she forgave him face to face. It saved every person who read her words and learned that bitterness doesn't have to win. One woman's yes to God became a generational earthquake of grace. Now I need you to stop and ask yourself something that might shock you. What if the pain you've carried, the rejection you've endured, the dreams that seem to die, what if all of it was preparing you to be someone's Harriet Tubman, someone's Corrie ten Boom? What if your greatest wound is about to become your most powerful weapon for the next generation? You see, beloved, the enemy didn't attack you randomly. He saw your future. He saw the lives you would touch, the chains you would break, the hope you would restore. So he tried to break you first. He tried to convince you that you're damaged goods, that your past disqualifies you, that you're too old, too tired, too ordinary to matter. But God says otherwise. Jeremiah 29:11 declares, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future." Not just a future for you, a future that flows through you into the next generation. Your grandchildren are watching. They may not say it, but they're studying how you handle disappointment. They're learning from your faith or your fear. They're absorbing whether you believe God is still good when life gets hard. When you say yes to God tonight, you're not just changing your story, you're rewriting their destiny. But here's the urgent truth that's shaking my spirit right now. This moment has an expiration date. The window of opportunity doesn't stay open forever. The voice calling you to rise might get quieter if you keep ignoring it. The passion burning in your chest might grow cold if you don't fan it into flame. Revelation 3:15-16 warns us, "I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. So, because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth." God is calling for your fire, not your fear, your passion, not your passivity, your wild, unreasonable faith that shocks hell and moves heaven. Right now, there's a teenager in your family drowning in depression, wondering if life has any meaning. There's a young parent overwhelmed by responsibility, questioning if God really cares. There's someone you haven't even met yet who will need to see that faith works, that God is real, that breakthrough is possible. They're all waiting for your yes. Your yes tonight might be the reason they believe again. Your obedience might be the miracle they've been praying for without even knowing it. Tag a grandchild right now. Text someone you love. Share this word, because your yes tonight might be the reason they don't give up tomorrow. Your breakthrough might be the bridge that carries them over their breaking point. You may never see the full impact of your obedience. Heaven keeps those records. But one day, when you stand before the throne, you'll see the ripple effects of every bold step you took, every time you chose faith over fear, every moment you let God's light shine through your scars. The legacy you leave isn't measured in dollars or degrees. It's measured in the souls who found God because they found Him in you. And beloved, that legacy begins with one word: yes. The torch is in your hands. The next generation is watching. Eternity is listening. What will your answer be? You've been sensing it in your body, haven't you? Like the air itself changed overnight, but nobody's talking about it. That restlessness in your chest, that weight pressing down on your spirit when you wake up at 3 a.m., the way your dreams have become more vivid, more urgent, more prophetic. Dear chosen one, you're not losing your mind, you're gaining spiritual sight. What you're feeling is the earth itself groaning under the weight of transformation. Romans 8:22 tells us, "We know that the whole creation has been groaning as in the pains of childbirth right up to the present time. But here's what most people miss: those groans aren't sounds of death. They're birth cries of something magnificent." You've watched the news, haven't you? Economic systems that seemed unshakable are trembling. Political structures that appeared permanent are cracking. Social foundations that felt solid are shifting beneath our feet. And in your own life, relationships ending without explanation, doors slamming shut that you thought were your destiny, dreams dying that you thought were from God. But what if I told you none of this is random chaos? What if every tremor you're feeling in the world and in your personal life is actually divine choreography? Matthew 24:8 warns us that these things are the beginning of birth pains. But birth pains don't signal the end, they announce the arrival of new life. The question burning in your spirit right now is this: are you carrying something heaven wants to birth through you? Think about it. When did you first notice the shift? Was it 6 months ago when you started having those dreams you couldn't shake? Was it a year ago when you began feeling like a stranger in your own life? Or has it been building slowly, like pressure in a pot, until you can barely contain what's stirring inside you? You see, chosen one, while the world is focused on the external chaos, heaven is orchestrating an internal awakening. Not in everyone, just in those who were marked before time began, just in those whose spirits were calibrated to recognize the sound of eternity calling. But here's where it gets controversial. Here's where your faith will either shrink back or step forward. God isn't just preparing you for what's coming. He's preparing what's coming through you. Every rejection you faced wasn't God saying no to you, it was God saying not yet. Every dream that seemed to die wasn't God killing your vision, it was God killing what was too small to contain what He really wants to do. You've been asking, God, when will my breakthrough come? But heaven has been asking, when will you realize you are the breakthrough? The spiritual fatigue you've been feeling isn't because you're weak. It's because you've been carrying a weight that was never meant for this season. The old version of you, the one that begged for blessings, the one that chased after dreams like a beggar chasing scraps, that version had to die for the warrior to emerge. And chosen one, the warrior, is emerging now. Every economic tremor is shaking loose your dependence on unstable systems. Every political upheaval is breaking your trust in human solutions. Every social breakdown is preparing you to be a solution that comes from a different realm entirely. This isn't global chaos. This is divine choreography. But here's what will separate you from the masses who panic. You're not watching this unfold as a victim. You're participating as a vessel. While others are asking, what's happening to the world? You're asking, what's God wanting to do through me? Jeremiah 1-5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." You weren't set apart to blend in during normal times. You were set apart to stand out during the times of shaking. Every sleepless night you've endured was preparing you for the nights when others can't sleep from fear, but you'll be interceding with supernatural peace. Every financial struggle you've overcome was qualifying you to speak abundance into barren places. Every relationship that wounded you was developing the compassion needed to heal hearts that are about to be shattered by what's coming. The dreams that keep interrupting your sleep, those aren't random neural firings. Those are downloads from heaven. The ideas that won't leave you alone, those aren't distractions from your real life. Those are your real life, trying to break through the limitations of your old thinking. But I need to ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. How long are you going to keep treating heaven's whispers like suggestions instead of commands? The groaning you feel in creation isn't just the earth crying out for deliverance. It's heaven itself travailing to birth something through you that the world desperately needs. But travail requires cooperation. Birth requires pushing when the pain is greatest. Right now, as you're listening to these words, something is shifting in the spiritual realm. The very fact that you're still here, still listening, still feeling that stirring in your chest, that's not coincidence. That's confirmation. If you're still here, it means heaven is still aligning something in you. The question is, will you keep fighting the process, or will you finally surrender to the purpose? Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly why every closed door was necessary, why every delay was strategic, and why this moment right now was the one your entire life has been building toward. Chosen one, I need to address something that's been tearing at your soul, something you've been too afraid to voice, too ashamed to admit, too confused to understand. You said yes to God. You surrendered your life. You stepped into obedience. And then, everything went to hell. Your back started aching worse than it had in years. Your kids turned against you. Your spouse grew cold. Your finances collapsed. Your dreams seemed to crumble faster than you could rebuild them. And in the darkness of 3 a.m., you whispered the question that's been haunting you. God, did I make a mistake? Listen to me carefully. That warfare intensifying after your yes wasn't God's punishment. It was hell's panic. You see, the enemy doesn't waste ammunition on civilians. He saves his heaviest artillery for the ones who pose the greatest threat. When you said yes to your calling, you didn't just change sides, you declared war on every demonic principality that had been operating unchallenged in your bloodline for generations. Think about it. When did Pharaoh's resistance become most violent? Right before the Israelites' exodus. When did the storm rage most fiercely? Right before Jesus calmed it with 3 words. When did the disciples face their greatest fear? The night before the resurrection that would change everything. Your intensified suffering isn't evidence that you're going the wrong way. It's confirmation that you're going the right way, and the enemy knows it. Job understood this. Here was a man so righteous that God himself bragged about him in heaven. And what happened the moment God spoke Job's name with pride? Satan launched the most devastating attack in biblical history. Job lost his children, his wealth, his health, his reputation. His own wife told him to curse God and die. But here's what Job knew that you need to remember. Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. Job 13:15. The attack wasn't random. It was targeted. It was strategic. It was hell's last desperate attempt to prevent the testimony that would echo through eternity. And what about Elijah? Right after calling down fire from heaven on Mount Carmel, right after the greatest victory of his ministry, he found himself running for his life, hiding in a cave, begging God to let him die. The depression hit hardest right after the breakthrough. Even Jesus perfect, sinless Jesus faced his most excruciating hour, right before his greatest triumph. In Gethsemane, the weight of every sin that would ever be committed pressed down on him until he sweat drops of blood. Luke 22:44. The agony was so intense that an angel had to come strengthen him. Why? Because hell threw everything it had at the Son of God in those final hours, knowing that if Jesus made it to the cross and through the grave, their kingdom would be forever shattered. Dear one, could it be that the intensity of your battle is directly proportional to the magnitude of your breakthrough? Your family turned against you because generational strongholds are trembling. Your health attacked you because your body is being prepared to carry greater glory. Your finances dried up because God is about to release streams of provision that require vessels with deeper capacity. You weren't being broken down. You were being broken open. Think of a seed. It must be buried in darkness. It must die to its original form. The shell must crack. The process looks like destruction, but it's actually resurrection. Without the breaking, there's no breakthrough. Without the death, there's no new life. Your pain has been purposeful. Your tears have been productive. Your sleepless nights have been strategic. Every attack that felt like it would destroy you was actually expanding your capacity to contain what God is about to release. The enemy overplayed his hand. He showed you exactly how terrified he is of who you're becoming. Every assault was admission that your assignment is earth-shaking. Every setback was confirmation that your comeback will be history-making. But here's the question that will change everything. Could it be that hell's last attempt to stop you is actually the confirmation that heaven just released you? Could it be that the warfare was so intense because you were so close? Could it be that the resistance was so fierce because the enemy could see what you couldn't, that you were about to step into a dimension of authority that would make his strongholds crumble like sandcastles? Your battle scars aren't signs of defeat. They're proof of victory. Every wound tells a story of a fight you survived. Every limp speaks of ground you gained. Every tear you shed watered seeds of purpose that are about to bloom in ways that will astonish you. The psalmist declared it. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalm 30:5. Your night is ending. Your morning is breaking. And the light that's about to dawn will make every moment of darkness worth it. Stop apologizing for the battle. Stop questioning the warfare. Stop doubting your calling because the resistance was real. The enemy's panic is your prophecy. His fear is your confirmation. His desperation is your validation. You didn't survive that storm by accident. You weren't preserved through that darkness by chance. You were protected because your assignment is still intact. Your calling still stands, and your breakthrough is still coming. But now I need to tell you something that will shake you to your core about what happens next. Chosen one, I need you to lean in close because what I'm about to tell you will shatter everything you thought you knew about how God communicates. You've been waiting for thunder. You've been scanning the skies for lightning. You've been begging heaven to speak louder, clearer, more dramatically. But here's the shocking truth that will break your heart wide open. God has been whispering to you every single day, and you've been too loud to hear him. The enemy's greatest victory isn't making you doubt God exists. It's convincing you that silence means absence, that quiet means God has forgotten your address, that the whisper you felt last Tuesday morning wasn't divine, it was just your imagination playing tricks on a desperate heart. But let me destroy that lie right now. In 1 Kings chapter 19, the prophet Elijah, man who had called down fire from heaven, who had outrun chariots, who had seen God move mountains, found himself broken and running for his life. He hid in a cave, convinced God had abandoned him. Sound familiar? Then God told him to stand at the mouth of the cave because the Lord was about to pass by. First came a great wind that tore the mountains apart and shattered rocks. But the Lord was not in the wind. Then came an earthquake that shook the very foundations of the earth. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. Then came fire that consumed everything in its path. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. The Hebrew word is kol damama daka, literally, the sound of thin silence, the voice of sacred stillness. And when Elijah heard it, he immediately covered his face and went out to meet God. Here's what will devastate you. The God of the universe chose to speak in a whisper when he could have chosen to roar. Why? Because whispers require intimacy. Whispers demand that you draw close. Whispers force you to quiet everything else so you can hear the one thing that matters most. How many times have you missed God's voice because you were listening for an earthquake when he was offering you a whisper? How many divine downloads have you rejected because they came wrapped in gentleness instead of thunder? Think about this. Every mother knows her baby's cry from 1,000 others. Every lover recognizes their beloved's footsteps in a crowded room. But when was the last time you recognized God's voice in the subtle stirring of your spirit? You see, God often hides his clearest guidance in the hush, like gold buried in still earth. While the world screams for your attention with notifications, deadlines, and chaos, heaven whispers your name in the 3 a.m. stillness when your defenses are down and your heart is finally quiet enough to receive. Have you mistaken silence for absence? Here's the truth that will shatter your excuses. That gentle nudge you felt to call your estranged daughter, that was God. That quiet conviction to forgive the person who wounded you deepest, that was God. That sudden peace that washed over you in the middle of your storm, that was God speaking louder than any voice you've ever heard. But you dismissed it. You said, "That's just me being emotional." You said, "That's just coincidence." You said, "God wouldn't speak to someone like me." And in your rejection of his whisper, you've been starving your soul of the very bread of life he's been trying to feed you every single day. Listen carefully. The volume of God's voice is not determined by the decibels he uses, determined by the desperation with which you listen. Samuel was just a boy when God called his name 3 times in the night. He kept running to Eli, thinking the old priest was calling him. But Eli finally understood. Go and lie down, and if he calls you, say, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening." 1 Samuel 3-9. When did you last say those words with your whole heart? Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. Not, speak louder, Lord. Not, speak clearer, Lord. Not, speak on my timeline, Lord. Just, speak, Lord, I'm listening. The tragedy of most believers' lives is not that God stopped speaking, it's that they stopped listening. You've become so addicted to noise that silence terrifies you. You fill every quiet moment with music, podcasts, phone calls, anything to avoid the sacred space where heaven's voice echoes. But here's what will wreck you. In that silence you've been running from, God has been waiting with the answers to every prayer you've ever prayed. That business idea that keeps returning to your mind, that person you keep thinking about reaching out to, that scripture that won't leave you alone, that dream that resurfaces every few months. That's not random. That's revelation. God is speaking. The question is, are you quiet enough to hear it? Right now, as you listen to these words, something is stirring in your spirit. You feel it, don't you? That gentle recognition that says, "This is for me." That's not emotional manipulation. That's divine confirmation. Heaven is whispering your name right now, and your spirit is finally awake enough to hear it. If you've heard even a faint whisper lately, if something in your soul is saying, "Pay attention," type "I'm listening" in the comments. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just obey that gentle nudge, because that nudge, that's God testing whether you're finally ready to hear what He's been trying to tell you. But here's the warning that will shake you to your core. Whispers don't wait forever. Eventually, God moves on to the next willing heart. The question that will haunt you if you don't answer it tonight is this: what life-changing message has God been whispering to you that you've been too busy, too proud, or too afraid to receive? Chosen one, as we come to the close of this divine encounter, I need you to carry these truths deep in your heart like precious stones. You didn't find this message, it found you. Every closed door, every silent season, every moment you questioned your worth was positioning you for this very revelation. God has been speaking to you in whispers because He wants intimacy, not just attention. And tonight, you've proven you're finally quiet enough to hear Him. Remember this: your silence was never God's absence. It was His invitation to draw closer. But here's what I need you to understand: with every fiber of your being, you are not walking this path alone. Not for one single step. While you've been questioning if anyone sees your struggle, there's been an invisible army surrounding you. Angels assigned to your breakthrough. Saints who've walked this road before you, cheering you on from heaven's grandstands. And right here, right now, a community of fellow chosen ones who understand exactly what you're carrying. Look at these comments flowing in. Look at these hearts crying, "I'm listening." You're part of something so much bigger than your individual journey. You're part of God's end-time army, rising in this very hour. If this message stirred something deep in your spirit tonight, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to know they haven't been forgotten. Comment below and tell us what God whispered to your heart. Ask your questions. This community will stand with you in prayer, because that's what family does. And please, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell, not for me, but for your own soul. Let this be your reminder that God is still speaking, still moving, still writing your story. But before you go anywhere, I want to pray over you. Not just pray for you, but with you. So wherever you are, in your living room, your car, lying in bed, I want you to receive this prayer as if I'm standing right there beside you, my hand on your shoulder, speaking life over your weary heart. Let us pray. Father God, I thank you for every precious soul who stayed with us tonight. Thank you for drawing them here by your Spirit. Thank you for the courage it took to listen, to believe, to hope again when hope felt foolish. Right now, Lord, I speak over each one watching this. You are seen, you are known, you are loved beyond measure. The whispers you've been hearing, they're real. The stirring in your spirit, it's divine. The dreams you thought were dead, you're breathing life back into them right now. God, I pray for breakthrough in their finances. Let provision flow like rivers in their desert. I pray for healing in their body's every ache, every diagnosis, every source of pain. Touch them with your healing power. I pray for restoration in their relationships. Mend what's been broken. Reconcile what's been separated. Bring beauty from their ashes. Lord, silence every voice of condemnation. Break every chain of fear. Shatter every lie that says they're too old, too late, too broken, too forgotten. They are your chosen ones, marked before time began, anointed for such a time as this. Give them dreams tonight, Father. Speak to them in their sleep. Confirm your word through signs and wonders. Open doors that no man can shut. Align divine connections. Release supernatural favor. And when the enemy whispers lies, remind them of this moment. Remind them that you called them here, spoke to their hearts, and sealed them with your love. Father, I thank you that their best days are not behind them, they're ahead of them. Their greatest victory is not in their past, it's in their future. Their most powerful moments of ministry are yet to come. Wrap them in your peace tonight. Let them sleep in supernatural rest. And when they wake tomorrow, let them rise with holy confidence, knowing they are carriers of your presence, agents of your kingdom, and living proof that you still speak to those who are quiet enough to listen. In the mighty name of Jesus, the name above every name, I seal this prayer and declare it done. Amen and amen. Now go, chosen one. Go and walk in the fullness of who you are. You've heard his voice tonight. Don't you dare forget it. Until we meet again, keep listening, keep believing, keep rising. You are loved. You are chosen. You are ready. What whisper did God give you tonight? Share it in the comments below. Your breakthrough might be someone else's hope.